I love it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Vulnerability Time. I am your host and published author, Josias Abril. And with us today, we have special guest Lacey.
Hey.
Oh, fun fact. So, this is also the second in person podcast, and we're sitting at a restaurant. So, if y'all hear background noises, bear with us. Yes, so Lacey, first off,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about you, Lacey. Let us get to know you. Who is Lacey?
Yeah, thanks,
What?
Josias.
Lacey,
I am
what?
Lacey. Josias and I are great friends, and we just have such quality, deep conversations with one another.
Yes, we are a
And
podcast.
we are. And so thanks for having me on. I have a little bit of a variety of a background, at least with work. I taught for years, I taught art.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, and I worked a little bit in the fashion industry, and I've worked in the
I'm
fitness
listening. I'm gonna check my
industry,
teeth.
and I've worked in the fitness industry, and this year I'm trying to start my own little clothing line. So trying to do my own thing for the first
Yes.
time.
You tell me, and I'll go and let my listeners know. So whenever that gets started up, so
Yeah.
that you got some people supporting and buying stuff. So
Nice.
just
Okay.
I want you. Yeah, continue.
Yeah, thank
Just know
you.
that like we have your back.
Yeah, I
So
appreciate
whenever that
it.
gets started, let me know and I'll tell them.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Sorry, continue.
That's okay. But yeah, so that's a little bit more about me.
Yes. So Lacey, I know that I told you, do not tell me a word about, don't even give me like the smallest hint of what you want to talk about for this episode of Vulnerability Time.
Right.
Because I want to be just as, I don't know. I just want to be, I don't know, the anticipation. I love that. So, Lacey, what did you want to share with us with Vulnerability Time? What is this?
Yeah, well, and I am excited to see the questions you come up with the little bit I share too.
Okay.
Because we do just such good back and forth, and so to me, I'm looking forward to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would say today I liked the idea of focus on what ways to be, what it means to be emotionally safe, especially in more church type settings because we don't always experience that, and that's extremely important.
Right.
And then also
Right,
learning
right.
not to villainize people in conflict.
That is so wise. So let's start off with, and that's something that I struggle with.
Me too, honestly.
Yeah.
We live in a cancel culture.
We live in a cancel
and-
culture.
But yet, I think so many of us also were not taught healthy boundaries
Right,
growing up.
right.
And so
And how to problem solve correctly.
And there's times where
healthy.
it is healthy for us to cut people off.
Right, right.
But how do we do that without villainizing their humanity, even if they
Okay.
really hurt us?
Yeah.
Not villainizing them even in our hurt,
Right.
which is legitimate and justified to feel hurt.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So Lacey, tell us why. So why that topic? Like, what made you think about wanting to talk about that? Is there something? What events happened in life that got you interested in that statement right there?
Yeah.
Because that's something that I think a lot of us struggle with, myself included.
And honestly, that's just like you said. I think even just in the past few days, conversations with friends and even frustrations where we have felt villainized in conflict, just because we're human, we're gonna have
Right.
conflict when we're in relationship with people,
Right. Because
but-
it's inevitable.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But then sometimes even out of another person's, own trauma and hurt, they'll villainize somebody who caused them even minimal hurt, right? Because they don't
Right.
have the discernment. But yet we can still even do that when it seems legitimate.
Right.
But as you and I have discussed doing with people who have hurt us really bad in traumatic situations, it only burdens us to keep that mentality of
Right.
villainizing them. And so freeing ourselves from that, but then also talking to enough friends where it's like, along with the lines of being emotionally safe, because that would be the contrast,
Right,
right?
right.
And it would be the positive aspect of setting boundaries and growth.
Right.
That's something that's not like, that's such a modern term,
Right.
and so people don't think it's justified in church spaces because they're like, where is it
Right.
legitimate in the Bible? And it was just
Right.
like, well, the Bible gives everything necessary for salvation,
Right.
but part of why we have the Holy Spirit is so it is relevant in our modern day
Right.
with
Right.
modern, progression in
Right.
psychology,
Right.
which God
Boundaries
created.
are
Like,
important.
right?
Yeah,
God created our psyche. He created our minds.
exactly. Like he knows more about
Yeah.
us than we
And
know
so
about
it's a very
us.
godly pursuit
Yeah.
to be emotionally safe people for each other.
Right. And
But
emotionally intelligent too.
yeah, exactly, which is required to be emotionally safe,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And or they go hand in hand.
Right. Something that I thought about
Yeah.
when we were first talking about villainizing, others and how others have done that to us. I do know that, at least for me, it's very common. Well, I've been working on it a lot now, and I see amazing results.
Yeah.
But back then, a lot of times us humans, we are projections of how we treat ourselves. So I wonder if a lot of us, intentionally or unintentionally villainize others because there are areas in our own life where if we make a mistake, we villainize ourselves. Or, where we taught to villainize others because that's all that was done to us. So I don't know, that kind of, that villain perspective
Yeah.
could also be like projection. Not saying that it is all the time. I just think that that's
No, I
something
think,
really cool that you had,
yeah.
mentioned it. It made me think about that. So that's so cool.
No, I love that. Thank you
This
for
sounds
sharing.
like such a podcast. I'm just
I
loving
love it too.
this.
I know. We just naturally have it. It's so
I
good.
love
And then
it.
you're just gonna edit out these, which I love.
I'm not editing out anything.
what?
It's vulnerability time.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I love this, you guys.
Love
You're
it.
hearing our natural chat. This is who we are.
This is literally us on a daily
I love
basis.
it.
Like this is us.
In my mind, I'm like, okay, you're editing these out. Never
No,
mind.
it's
No.
vulnerability. Nothing's edited.
I love that. No, I do think that is, and that's just it. Is like emotions and thoughts are so complex, and so that could be in one scenario or for some people, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I think also another perspective is if you're trying to grow in boundaries and
Right.
haven't been good at them in the past, somebody new comes along and they reflect similar bad patterns of somebody who really hurt you in the
Right.
past, it can be easy to villainize them because you see, oh, they have these same traits. So that means they are exactly this awful. They're actually this
Right.
abusive or traumatic
Right.
or whatever.
Right.
And so then we set that on them because we don't know how to set boundaries in a healthy way. And
Right,
sometimes
right.
that is a natural part of it. But even if that's part of our internal like process to grow to a healthier place with boundaries, how do we not reflect that with our actions or words towards these people, right?
Right.
Or even just having safe people that we can process that with who aren't going to go and gossip about them.
Right,
And they're
right.
just like, they're going to help give us the right perspective, validate our feelings and our emotions.
Right.
But they're not going to be toxic and make it into drama and conflict and then just go
Right.
around and gossip, or even in the lines of trying to help fix things.
Quote unquote.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The second you start to tell multiple people, it's no longer venting, it's toxic, and it can hurt whole communities.
Right.
And then the whole community knows about maybe not very much about this person, but the one bad thing they did.
Right.
And that's all they see and know of them, so then they're a villain.
Right.
And that's not helpful or fair.
Right.
You know?
I completely agree. And there was something else that this conversation reminded me of, something that you said earlier.
Yeah.
And I want to touch on, emotional safety and stuff like that. Not saying that, this only happens to women. But you are a woman.
Yeah.
How have you experienced, for those of us who don't know, how have you experienced, emotional safety recovery, or learning or trying to find emotional safety?
I love that.
Yes.
I think.
Did that make sense?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
absolutely. You worded that well. Thanks.
Fabulous.
I'm just even trying to think, like, because I think I'm just
Right.
good at sharing with via example, right?
Yeah, yes.
And even just kind of staying along topic of kind of experiences of having emotionally safe people in church settings. And this can happen in secular settings as well. But I think in church settings, we can idolize godliness in the form of perfectionism that
Right.
actually isn't healthy.
Right.
And part of God's grace is that we learn as we go. That
Right.
is
We
part of our
learn as we
humanity.
mistake.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And there's just so much
Exactly.
grace for that. And I think emotionally safe people, like, they'll be real with us when we mess up,
Yeah.
but they also love us to say, like, this is not who you are, like, you
Right.
messed up, we all do, how can we grow together? And those are people that you can be honest with because they receive it.
Mm.
They don't demonize you for any faults,
Right.
and I'm not talking about like major abuses or major or just
Right.
abuse in general. I'm not talking about
Right. Right.
like there are legitimate things that are just a whole nother topic.
Right.
I'm just talking about just
Yeah.
normal everyday conflict,
Right. Right.
type of situations
Right.
where, or just like you are forgetful about something
Right.
and someone gets really upset, and then all of a sudden there's like no redemption to grow from that.
Right.
To me, that's not emotionally safe because it's like, man, there's no room to build trust and to
Right.
grow. And so I think when we accept each other, like, we encourage one another for our great things, but even when we mess up, it's just like, shoot, like, that sucks, but there's space for us to be vulnerable about this, like how we hurt somebody, but then also saying, this is how we can grow together.
Right.
This is how I see you as more than this. And not doing just the shoulda, woulda, coulda type of mentality. People like, you
Right.
should be that way, you should be doing this, and trying to like fix people in that way, but really
Right.
just being present with one another
Right.
and accepting each other as we are in
Right.
that moment, as God accepts us.
Right, because we are not objects to fix. We are
Right.
humans to heal, to
Yeah.
love, to grace.
Yeah.
And that it just made me think of something, a statement or a question that I just asked myself. Into your wisdom,
Aw.
going into this, next semester of my graduate school.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come into the mindset, come in with the mindset of, who, my energy is important.
Yeah.
Who around me will be emotionally safe? Who can I
That
be
makes
emotionally
sense.
safe with?
Yeah.
For, as well. So that's something because I've been, navigating and trying to navigate, not everyone is allowed your space, your energy, your time,
Yeah.
and your friendship,
Yeah.
and because a lot of people, whether they mean to or not, they can come in and they can, abuse that.
Yeah.
Or neglect that or betray that.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and it sometimes takes trial and error to know
Right.
if that was like a one-time oopsie daisy,
Right,
If from
exactly,
someone, and it was just
exactly.
like, crap, that's not
Right.
their character, but just a moment of weakness.
Right. Because it's a difference when someone's like trying to like, oh, I'm sorry.
Or
did you-
no, go ahead. No, I was
Yeah.
saying, or when it's a pattern,
Right. Yes.
And character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like there's a difference. Like if they mess up and they care that they hurt you and they're trying to fix it, they're not just saying that with their words.
Yes.
Their actions are aligning with their I apologize, I'm trying. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But if they just are just continually doing it and they don't care that they're hurting you,
Yeah.
like, we something that I learned, pay attention to, when someone has hurt you and if they care or not.
Yeah.
Pay attention to that.
Yeah.
And
like just like you said, are they just saying they care, or are they actually showing it with their actions? Because if they're
Exactly.
continuing to do the same thing and
Right.
they said they cared,
Right.
they're continuing to do the hurtful thing.
Right.
They don't, and it may be that they don't have the capacity to
Right.
care. But
Exactly.
that they still then aren't emotionally safe.
Right.
You know.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that sucks because sometimes it can be people that we care about or some people that are supposed to
Totally.
love us. Like parents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And though I my intention right now is not to villainize my mother.
Sure.
Sometimes my intention is.
Yeah.
But that's the
yeah,
thing. A lot of
yeah.
times, like that villainize, you'll also see that I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
Like, that's how bad she is. I'm just not. Like I'm not.
Yeah.
So, how she
Well, and
was
to
a huge
validate, you've
part-
had extreme hurt there.
Extreme hurt,
That
exactly.
hasn't been everyday conflict
Right.
from what you shared with me. That is
right.
like
It's a constant yearly constant.
and that's where I think. Sorry, and I don't want to hear more of
No,
your story.
no, continue.
But I'm just gonna say that's where I think the church can be more emotionally safe.
Mhm.
I think we give so much cheap grace to abusers and offenders
Yes.
and no grace to the victims.
Ooh.
And that's where we're not emotionally safe as a church, and that's not
Exactly,
okay.
exactly.
And
Like,
that's an
oh,
issue.
you can't just be a victim and sit back.
Right?
You know. I was like, no, 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 no. If we're gonna call out the reaction to something,
Yeah.
you cannot spell the word reaction without action.
Absolutely.
Let's go to the root.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Let's go to why this reaction occurred. If you're gonna speak and tell someone, what they should do, what they could have done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
First off, highlight their strengths of
Yeah.
what they and their resiliencies of what good they have already done. You know what I mean?
The victim.
Like, even if they said no just once,
Yeah.
highlight that, because that no, that might have taken a lot of energy just to stand up and say no.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I was saying was, my mother,
Yeah.
she caused me to have that suicide attempt, a couple months ago in September.
I'm so sorry. About
So, I think I told you about it though.
you
didn't I?
did.
Okay,
You did. I
good.
know, but I'm still gonna empathize anytime you share it.
I was just making sure, and I was like,
Because
you
you
did.
did.
You. I'm like, I'm sure I told you.
Yeah.
I was like, I better have
But it
told
still
you.
makes me sad now as the
Yes,
first
of
time you told me,
course.
you know?
Yes.
And so.
But it just shows you how close I am to you, because I was like, I better have told Lacey.
Of course.
But yeah, so
Thank you for sharing now.
yes.
Yeah.
So and it taught me the turmoil that came because of her. It helps teach me, my energy is important.
Yeah.
I am worth feeling emotionally safe.
Yeah.
I'm worth being emotionally safe.
Yeah.
How I'm treated, it's inevitable that people are gonna like hurt people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? However, it's like what comes after that hurt.
Yeah.
How are they responding? How do
Yeah.
you respond, and how do they acknowledge your response?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
And if they're not willing to respect that boundary, or respect the fact that they hurt you, and own up to, hey, I made a mistake.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Or are they gonna instantly make excuses for it
Right.
and say what, or deflect and say, well, if you would have did this, then this, and this.
Right.
Or, this, and that. Like. So, and the reason I'm saying this is because it took something going on for all of my life. It took something when we leave.
Okay, gotcha.
It took, me having another.
I ain't gonna lie, y'all. They just let me clock out early. I'm happy as hell. I'm gonna go home.
Oh, good.
Good night.
Well, the staff here is very friendly. If y'all couldn't be
Yes.
here, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it took me having another huge suicide attempt, for me to finally hold on and just be present with the importance of, I tried my best. My energy matters.
Yeah.
Because I was such an extroverted person, so loving, so, for everyone. To the point where my boundaries were being disrespected, and I didn't even know what boundaries were, because I thought setting boundaries was a mean thing.
Sure.
But I didn't even know what that word was.
Sure.
But the action of setting boundaries, I thought that was a mean thing. Like, now I know it's okay to say no.
And it helps to not enable people continually bad behavior.
Right, exactly.
It gives them the opportunity to change if they want to.
Right, because it's like, what if they don't know what they're doing, or they don't know how it's affecting you? So it's like, it is, like you said, it is important to, hold them accountable, to give them that opportunity, because it's really hard. It's really not fair to hold someone accountable for something they don't know. Like, if they don't know that this is hurting you,
Yeah, and that's just in general. I don't mean to relate that to like your situation.
No, it's
that's
just
deep.
in general,
hurt,
right?
Because
I had to ask myself, it's like, this is not a one-time thing. This person has done this over and over and over.
Yeah.
Do they know that it's hurting me?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They do.
Yeah.
But it's still something, that I, take with me now to ask, just in future friendships in my life, connections in my life, if this person's hurting me, you know what I mean? Do they know it's hurting me?
Yeah.
So it's good to communicate and say, hey, it's hurting me.
Yeah.
And it's like how their response is. That can tell you a lot.
It's true.
And it shouldn't have to take, like you being like on the floor, just dropped out, crying, just in agony for this person to get it even just a little bit.
I agree.
So I just think that was really cool.
I
to say, you
Sweet. You too.
you need your own podcast.
It's so
That's what you
sweet.
need. You need your own
So
podcast. I'm
sweet.
serious. You need it.
Aw.
Think about that.
Well, thank you.
But yeah, so that's just
No,
something that I'm getting out
no,
of
I
like emotional
agree.
safety. It's something
It
that
is.
yeah.
Well, and I think like a couple thoughts to that.
Yeah, because I am hard headed. Like
Well, yeah.
when it comes to like the social
But
aspect.
you know what? Also, like, I also just want to give validation to that
Yeah.
because, like, some things that we see as weaknesses can also be our strength, and vice versa, right?
Right.
But like, part of being hard-headed is you're very resilient. You've been through a lot of hard
Ooh,
shit, and being
yes.
hard-headed has gotten you through it. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
Yeah. No, I'm
Yes, I didn't
serious.
see it
Like,
like
it's
that.
just like a stubborn, like some of the most stubborn people are the ones who can make it through,
Yeah.
healed. You know,
That's
and
true.
it's
That
just
is a
like,
good point.
and it's just it's all about perspective. Like we see stubbornness only as a negative. It's like, well, yeah, if the intention is negative, stubbornness isn't good, and if
Yeah.
it's just self-serving, period.
Oh my god. Continue.
No, that's okay. Can you answer? And we're just taking a little pause, you guys. We'll be right back.
Yeah. Good.
Cool. And we are back, you guys.
We are back.
But just saying, like, because I know even sometimes when I think about stubbornness in my head, it's just self-serving. I just want to do what I want to do, period.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not necessarily true. It's standing firm and sometimes just beliefs that, and maybe that is belief in yourself to survive,
Mm-hmm.
and that's huge. And that's not self-serving. That's survival. Like that's
Right.
a different thing, you know. And like maybe it's like stubbornness to not like a parent not giving up on a difficult child and loving them through
Right.
it and having tough conversations, but
Right,
there's
right.
positive ways of stubbornness, right?
Right,
But
right.
along the lines of like boundaries, my thought is just like Henry Cloud, he has the book Boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest, I haven't read all of it, so I need to go back and do that, but I've read parts of it, and I liked how he described boundaries as like your house, a front yard, and a gate. And boundaries are not a wall, they're a gate. And how people treat you allow whether they can come into the gate. And even then, they can't necessarily come into the house, but maybe they can come into the front yard.
Right.
If they don't treat you well, they need to go outside the gate. And it doesn't mean they can't, if they grow, it doesn't mean it can't ever change.
Right.
It just, but if they don't ever grow, maybe they never can come into the gate and then
Right.
come into your
Right,
lawn or
right.
house.
So they
you
can come in
know?
and burn that house down.
Exactly. And
Oh,
so I love that. And then also, even just on the lines of, because when I initially talked about not villainizing, like I said, I was just talking about just more basic conflict with generally healthy people. Because again, we're still human and we mess up even if we're healthy. But one perspective I have when it is hard, when it's even legitimate to villainize somebody who has very toxic actions and doesn't
Yeah.
change from them.
Right.
And I'm trying to, I'll be honest, I have struggled with calling people toxic and identifying them as such. And it's hard
Same.
because, well, it's hard because if
Yeah.
they've lived a lot of their life that way,
Right.
it seems who they are, but that's not how God created them.
Right.
And that's what I want to identify them as such in my own head. And also just to give the hope that they could grow if they choose it.
Right.
But what helps me even still to heal from villainizing even these people who have been villains in my life.
Right.
Like, and I don't
That's
call them villains to
huge.
identify them. I call them villains for the level of hurt and pain they
Right.
cause me, right?
Oh, okay.
And so, but
I like that.
what helps me heal from villainizing them or keeping them as such, and even distancing myself, because I think the best healing is when we don't have to think about them that much.
Right.
But that takes work to do. It's not
Right.
passive. That's active healing. Is remembering the thought that we do not fight against flesh and blood.
Mm-hmm.
And so even in these situations where like a human may have been abusive, whether it was verbally, emotionally, or they villainized you out of their own pain and hurt for no legitimate reason.
Right.
Remembering like, man, like, yes, I have to set boundaries and distance myself from this person and maybe not even have them in my life.
Right.
But I also know that the enemy was trying to destroy something here.
Right.
Whether that be our confidence and worth in the Lord, or whether that be legitimizing having them legitimizing their hurt in a way.
Right.
But to me, remembering that helps me to detach even villainizing those who have really hurt me in a
Right.
villain manner,
Right.
but not holding that on because that is a burden to hold on to.
Mhm.
But remembering we do not fight against flesh and blood, so there's something else going on here that doesn't even like is more evil and powerful than they have capable. You know what I mean of being in their own humanity.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Beautifully said. Sorry, y'all. I have to take a shit. And it hurts. I ate jalapenos, and I didn't think about it, so that's why that's what I'm mumbling to Lacey. But I was like, this is vulnerability time. Y'all have heard it all.
And we've got a good amount going on, so if
We
you
do.
want to wrap it up too,
We can.
I want
And
you to
you will
be taken care of.
She'll definitely be back for season 3. Like literally, her and Abigail will be back for season 3. 1000%. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I love this
For
though.
sure. But this is beautiful. This is a lot of wisdom, literally, a lot of healing, So yes, with that being said, folks, if no one has told you today that they love you, I want you to be the first. I will be the second. I love you and I like you. But I want you to look in the mirror or look in a reflection, whether it's on your phone, selfie camera. Just tell yourself that you love yourself, even if you don't mean it.
And I'll be the third person to say it too.
Yes.
I like you too and love you.
Yes. And I will see y'all next week for next week's episode.
Keep
Bye,
listening.
everyone.
He's really awesome.
Oh my God, stop it.